You know that specific kind of silence that only happens around 3 in the morning? It's not peaceful. It's heavy. It's the kind of silence where the world stops distracting you, and you're left entirely alone with the volume of your own thoughts. You're staring at the ceiling, or maybe at the floor, and there's this phantom weight in your chest. A subtle, persistent hum of unease. You've felt it before. Not once. Not twice. But enough times that you're beginning to wonder if your life has been trying to tell you something. You tell yourself you're just tired. That it was a long day, a long week, a long year. So you reach for that familiar ritual. The glass. The pour. The amber liquid or the crisp clear chill that promises to soften the sharp edges of the day. You take that first sip, and for a fleeting second, you feel the release. The exhale. But if you pay very close attention to the moments that follow, you'll notice something strange. The relief doesn't actually last. It just postpones the question you've been avoiding. And while you're waiting for the tension to fade, something else is quietly being taken from you. But none of that is the real reason you're listening right now. There is a polite lie we all participate in. We treat the bottle as a reward, a social lubricant, a sophisticated commas and periods marker at the end of a hard sentence. We've been conditioned to believe it adds something to the room. Vibrancy. Connection. Comfort. But let's look closer at what happens when it enters your system. It doesn't actually give you anything. It borrows. Think about the last time you were in a crowded room, feeling that slight, prickling social anxiety. You drink, and the anxiety recedes. You think the drink gave you confidence. But biologically, psychologically, it didn't create a single drop of joy or courage. It simply went into the vault of your brain, took tomorrow's peace, tomorrow's emotional resilience, and spent it all in 60 minutes. You aren't buying happiness. You're taking out a high-interest loan against your own sanity. And the interest rate is staggering. The next morning, that vague, nameless dread that greets you before you even open your eyes. That isn't just a hangover. That is the debt collector arriving at your door. You find yourself pacing around your kitchen, rehearsing conversations that never happened, apologizing in your head for things you didn't even do. Here's what almost nobody notices: the substance doesn't soothe the anxiety. It authors it. It weaves a subtle, microscopic web over your nervous system, convincing you that the world is slightly louder, slightly meaner, and slightly harder to bear than it actually is, just so you will return to the only thing that promises to quiet the noise. It creates the wound, then sells you the bandage. And at first, it seems entirely insignificant. A harmless transaction. But the strange part comes later, when you realize the transaction has slowly changed who you are. Have you ever noticed how your memories of the last few years feel a bit blurred at the edges? Like a photograph left too long in the sun. We are told that alcohol kills cells, that it damages organs, the clinical truths they print in pamphlets that nobody reads. But there is a much deeper, more intimate theft occurring. It kills the nuance of your life. When you rely on a chemical to create your peaks, your brain's natural ability to map joy begins to atrophy. The sunset doesn't look as bright unless there's a glass in your hand. The dinner conversation feels slightly flat without the bottle open on the table. The celebration feels incomplete, almost naked, without the toast. This is what identity theory calls creeping dependency. It doesn't happen with a dramatic crash. It happens like dusk. The light changes so slowly that you don't realize it's dark until you're stumbling. You begin to lose your taste for the ordinary, beautiful, quiet frequencies of human existence. The slow Saturday mornings. The unfiltered clarity of an early run. The raw, slightly awkward, but deeply real connection of looking someone in the eye completely sober and saying exactly what you mean. You swapped those sharp, vivid colors for a comfortable, warm gray. You smiled so nobody would notice how exhausted you really were. You told everyone you just love the taste, or that it helps you sleep. But you know as well as I do that the sleep it gives you isn't rest. It's an identical twin to anesthesia. It knocks you out, but it refuses to let you dream. It keeps you locked in the basement of your own mind, skipping the vital stages of restoration, leaving you to wake up feeling like a ghost in your own skin. And yet, you keep defending it. Why do we defend the very thing that makes us strangers to ourselves? Because the alternative requires us to look at the space left behind. Let's talk about that space. The gap between who you are and who you wanted to be. We often think people drink to forget their past, to drown their traumas, or to escape their demons. Sometimes that's true. But behavioral science tells us something far more haunting. Most people don't drink to escape their past. They drink to tolerate their present. They drink because the life they built doesn't fit the soul they have. Think about the hallway you've walked 1,000 times, the routine, the job, the relationship, the expectations. It's a comfortable cage. And every evening, when the cage doors feel a bit too narrow, the drink acts as a psychological dimmer switch. It turns down the lights so you don't have to see the bars. It makes dissatisfaction feel like contentment. It allows you to accept an average, uninspired version of your life for one more day. It keeps you compliant. If you were completely clear, completely awake, the dissatisfaction would burn. It would hurt. But that pain is functional. It's an evolutionary signal. It's your psyche screaming at you that something needs to change. It's the friction that forces a person to reinvent themselves, to leave the dead-end situation, to have the difficult conversation, to create something beautiful. When you numb the friction, you kill the transformation. You essentially tell your potential to sit in the corner and be quiet. You choose a slow, comfortable stagnation over a sharp, liberating truth. And you do it under the guise of taking the edge off. But that edge you're trying to remove, that's your edge. That's your drive. That's your discernment. That's when everything quietly changed. You didn't lose your ambition all at once. You just traded it, sip by sip, for a temporary reprieve from the responsibility of choosing a different life. There is a profound experiment in selective attention where individuals are asked to count passes of a basketball, and because their focus is so narrow, they completely miss a person in a gorilla suit walking right through the center of the court. Your focus has been on managing the habit. How much is too much? Should I only drink on weekends? Maybe just beer and wine. No liquor. While you've been counting the passes, while you've been negotiating the rules with yourself, you have missed the giant, unmistakable truth standing in the center of your room. The negotiation itself is the answer. People who have a healthy relationship with a substance do not spend their commutes calculating how many days it's been since their last drink. They don't set boundaries they secretly plan to break by Friday. They don't have silent arguments with themselves in the liquor aisle. The moment you have to manage it, it is already managing you. It has become the invisible narrator of your schedule. It dictates which restaurants you go to, who you spend your time with, and what time you leave the party. It has subtly redrawn the map of your life, and you didn't even notice the ink was wet. It wasn't an accident. It was designed this way. A perfect loop of physiological craving and psychological justification. It convinces you that it is your friend, your shield against the cold, hard world. But look closely at the shield. It isn't protecting you from the storm. It's just keeping you out in the rain. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean after dark. You can't see the horizon. You can only hear the vast, unpredictable pull of the water. It's terrifying, but it's real. It's immense. That ocean is your unfiltered mind. It contains your deepest desires, your unresolved grief, your unexpressed creativity, and your truest self. For a long time, you've been standing on the shore, pouring oil on the water, trying to calm the waves so you don't have to deal with the depth. You've been choosing the safety of the shallow end, even though you're drowning there anyway. They tell you alcohol is killing you, and they mean your liver, your heart, your brain. But those are just the physical casualties. The far greater tragedy is what it does to your presence. It robs the people who love you of the person you actually are. They get the muted version. The heavy-lidded version. The irritable next morning version. The version that is physically in the room but emotionally thousands of miles away, wondering when it's socially acceptable to pour another. You've been missing your own life. You've been absent for the very moments you were trying to celebrate. The birthdays, the milestones, the quiet evenings, they've all been filtered through a chemical lens, leaving you with a collection of memories that feel like they belong to someone else. So we return to the silence. 3 in the morning. The glass is empty. The house is still. You are standing at a crossroads that doesn't look like a crossroads. It just looks like tomorrow morning. You can wake up and reach for the familiar dimness. You can continue the negotiation, keep setting the rules, keep paying the interest on the loan, and keep watching the colors of your life slowly fade into a permanent, tolerable gray. You can let the substance finish the story it started writing for you. Or you can do something incredibly brave, and incredibly terrifying. You can let the light stay up. You can choose to sit with the friction. You can let the anxiety breathe, let the dissatisfaction burn, and finally listen to what that heavy feeling in your chest has been trying to tell you all these years. You can reclaim your edge. The truth isn't that you need a drink to survive this world. The truth is, this world has been waiting for you to finally show up. Completely awake. Completely raw. Completely alive. The choice was never about giving something up. It was always about what you are finally ready to let back in. As you lie there, listening to the quiet cadence of your own breath, the ultimate question isn't how much longer you can keep living like this. The question is, who would you be if you finally stopped hiding from the person staring back at you in the mirror?